W2AV Talk with Demetris Curry. Here's your gateway to discovering the formula to a more gratifying life with the accountability you need to start and stay energized, inspired, and on top. Author and wealth strategist Demetris Curry is a nationally leading voice and go-to authority on insurance and financial literacy. Got questions about your finances, relationships, healthy living, or professional life? W2AV talks about it all, along with tips to enhance your overall well-being. W2AV Talk with Demetris Curry.
Hello, everybody. This is Demetris Curry, and we are here for yet another wonderful episode of Authors Unite. You know, when we started talking about Authors Unite and start trying to make a decision about what do we do with this segment? What do we do with this particular platform? We want to get to know the authors behind the scenes. Who are they? And what made it so important for them to put their thoughts and their experiences and maybe even some of their hurts onto paper? And so we have had the opportunity to work with so many, but today we are with Miss Kevia. Woo! I'm so excited to have her here with us today. We've been trying to do this for a while, but I am glad that we have the chance to do this today because it is the right time. It is the right season to talk about this right here. And I'm going to bring her on board, and I just want to say hello to her, let you guys get a chance to experience the wonderful works of what she's done in the past and just to get to know her better. Are you there?
I am here. Hello.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm so glad that you are here with us today. I was like, oh my God. And this is the funny part. Before we even get started, I get too excited. We don't even know how we met. We sort of found each other.
Yes.
We found each other somehow in media. And I'm like, who connected us along the way? We have no idea where the connection came from, but it's stuck.
Yes. My broadcast paused for a second, but yes, ma'am. We were sitting one day and we're like, I met you on some either business hub or ministry somewhere, but we'll figure it out one day.
One day we'll figure it out. I said, was it on a TD Jakes thing? Was it on a ministry? What was it? It was somewhere where we were. Yeah, we were at a conference or something, and I can't remember what it was. It was maybe an empowerment conference. I can't remember which one it was.
Yes.
But I was like, somehow we got connected, and I was just like, wow.
Absolutely.
How crazy is that? How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
It's a beautiful day that the Lord has made. Listen, all we can do is rejoice.
Yes, and be glad in it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I'm excited that we have the chance to sit down and even though we're going to talk about this, one of your beautiful works, you have a couple out there, not just this one, but it's one of the ones that I have here on my nightstand. So I said, let me go ahead and pull this out and let's talk about it. But let's get to know you behind the scenes and tell the people who you are.
Yes. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on. You know, where's my manners, right? So thank you for having me on. And I am Kevia Nishe. I always say that I'm the muse for the maker's use. Okay. You know, whenever you talk about background of what you've done and who you are, it's like, whoo, you know, that could be a whole story. You know, we could be on here for hours of a testimony and things that the Lord has allowed. But I am a owner of a business, you know, several portfolios, but since it's relevant to the author aspect, right? Yes. I'm a writer and owner of a literary arts company called Kevia Writes. And we publish books, edit books, you know, we do business plans, proposals, acquisitions, things of that nature. So let me pin your thought for you. I literally love to help people bring their vision and dream to fruition. Yeah. Aside from that, I'm a life coach as well with posture life coaching. And so, again, I love to help people with their heart posture and whatever it is that is going on within life to help people get to where they need to be on their journey. So in a nutshell, you know, that's a little bit, you know, I know we'll dive more into it, but that's a little more about me. I'm a writer from the core because I love poetry. I make music, all of those things. So music actually is my first love with writing. So
really, and that's so funny because we have so much in common. We were talking about that some time ago. It's like, wait a minute, music is like my first love. It's like I love music, and people are like, okay, girl, you always putting on some jazz or some instrumentals, or putting on some gospel and all this other stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm a lover of music, all kinds of music.
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. And I would say jazz is like and I don't want people to think this strange, but jazz is like a brain massage, as boss ladies, business women, things of that nature. We're pretty much on the go a lot. Okay.
Yes.
But if I turn on, even if it's like a contemporary, like Damien Escobar, or
yes.
So we go back, we want to do some Ben Tankard, we want to do some Colburn.
You called out all of my favorites.
You know what it does. You can relate to what it does for your mind, to relax you, as if I'm in a massage parlor. So I love jazz as well.
Yes, we're going to have to talk about Brian Culberton. We'll talk about that on another one. But we got to pull that together and go see him out there at the Vineyard in California. They have some really great gigs live. Yeah. So, anyways, I'll get off topic. But at the same time, right? When I was in school, was in junior high school, I got a full scholarship for classical voice. I used to be a singer years ago. And so, it's like I've always had that music in me, right? Yes. Right. Don't that just changes your whole perception of things that's going on around you? You know what I mean? At least it does for me. It gives me the opportunity to either bring myself down a little bit off of all the craziness, all the chaos that may be going on around you.
Yes, absolutely.
And and help you find some type of, comfort. Yeah.
Yes. I can relate to that, especially in writing, because as I spoke about, writing is my first love. So I guess we can give a little background. When I was a young girl, my grandmother, she would buy me notebooks, and she would tell me, whenever you're feeling some type of way or feeling emotional, write. If your feelings are hurt, write. Or if you're happy, write. And so that was a part of the grooming.
Wow. Yeah.
Of me writing poetry. And so I got so many different poetry awards, in the Writers Guild and just different things, even as an adolescent, right?
Yeah.
And so that literally was honing me to like the technical writing aspect, creative writing. I've had the blessed honor to like travel and do my music because I love to write, to encourage the music. It's a lot of amazing music out there, but especially for our younger generation, there's a lot of, so we just don't want to talk about what the problems are. We want to be a solution to the problem, right? And so I use a lot of my music to encourage and uplift, but it's a bop too. It's a really nice tune and things like that. But just growing into that, I mean, I've been on the Bobby Jones gospel show, different shows nationally, traveling with different artists. And there I was like, oh man, they're like, you're a dope poet, and then I learned that I could rap. So I do inspirational rap.
There you go. You're well-rounded. You're absolutely well-rounded. And that's so funny. Poetry is like my second love. That's what I actually ran to for comfort of trying to understand where I was in life. And so that's when you and I are talking about that. He was like, oh, we love music, love poetry. I said, hold up. You're a mirror image.
I'm telling you what, like all of my life. And so with my grandmother encouraging me, and then just in essence, I didn't come from behind the pen until 2012 with music. Okay. And so it was a challenge because, as a poet, you can freelance and you can write your stanzas and all of that how you would like. Well, when I went into the booth, they're like, you have to condense that to 8 bars, 6 bars. I didn't know exactly what all of that meant.
You're going to be too long.
And for some people, it's like, oh, okay. But I was like, this is a challenge. But now it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Anytime someone gives me a mic, I'm so glad to be able to encourage the music and just have a good time with that. So
that is amazing. That is amazing. Yes, it reminds me, you just made me think of a client that I need to actually introduce you to. Make sure I tell you about that a little bit later.
Okay.
But that is just amazing. So what I'm thinking here is how you impact other people. I mean, because not only are you doing ghostwriting, Not only are you helping them get their thoughts out on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also behind the scenes helping them create things like business plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping them get their thought process together and also pull back the layers on some of the things that they may not even thought about when building their business and building their business plans. And what do they have in mind? What are they forecasting? So all of that is just like, it's creative thinking. Your creative side of your brain is just like on fire. I mean, it's just on fire. You know how you have the side that's always accounting and numbers and standards. And then you have that creative side. See, I have a little bit of both, but your creative side, girl, is just on fire. I don't know.
Praise the Lord. Look, all glory to God for that. But another funny point of that, my dad would always tell me when I was younger, he would say, if you're thinking in the confines of like your brain capacity, you're not thinking big enough. And he said, you have a big head, so you're going to have to think big. And I was like, okay, so as a young girl, just taking that up, like, literally, as a visionary, I really do. It's really my jam to assist people with their vision, to assist people with bringing, their dreams to fruition. And as a visionary, one may think, okay, because sometimes we can see the whole broad scale of things, but those minute details matter as well. And so I do get a lot of visionaries that are sometimes missing some of the minute details that are needed. And I'm just blessed and grateful to God that he did allow for me to think as large and broad, as well as to rail in on the detail matter. And so whoever I get, the first point of action is just to, hear them out and listen to what their hearts desire. You see what I'm saying? Because and especially on the book writing side, sometimes, we have so many things that we want to share with the world, so many things we want to talk about and impart to our audience, right? And so we have to outline that so that it's a good structure, because, if we just wrote an entire book about our life, I mean, it could be thousands of pages, right?
Yes.
So I get them in on like a brainstorming session first with either side, the technical side or, the creative side with book writing. And just really listen and hear the heart of the client.
That heart posture, like you call it, is I love that phrase because it makes so much sense. It makes a lot of sense. Oh my goodness! So let's dive in.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's dive in. You and I were talking about this. I was like, what made you do your title this way? Because that was the first thing that caught my eye. I was like, how did she do her title that way? Tell me about that.
Yes, ma'am. Fences Picketed Black, the breakaway from a codependent mindset. So I'm going to tell you one thing. So I, again, as mentioned, as being a owner of a literary arts company, I mean, we're publishing books, we're helping others with Kevia Nishe-Writes. We're helping them to bring, and I said, you know what? I need to put something on paper as well. So this is actually my first piece of work that was published back in 2020. Okay. So the title, I was sitting there and literally I was reflecting on how some people look at an individual and think that they grew up behind a white picket fence. You see what I'm saying? And just the personas and with mentees and just in ministry and life coaching, a lot of times when you share your testimony, people are like, what? And some of the younger, Miss Kevia, you did that, or you went through what? I can't believe it, or glory to God, or whatever that looks like. And that phrase that we all say, I don't look like what I've been through, right? But it just made me, that was along the thought premise and what made me just hone back and thinking what to call this journal to help people through a topic that I believe to be important with the heart posture of everything, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Where are we at balance on a daily basis? Not just when something is going awry, not when just, things are not going right in our life, but on a regular basis. And I call it heart posture maintenance. So I do that with the women's, life coaching and things like that as well. But I wanted to go a little deeper, but not too deep, because it's just like a journal aspect to help people come from a place of, okay, we grew up this way and this is just the way that it is. You see what I'm saying? And so the whole white picket fence, and I know some people like interpret that different ways, but Fences Picketed Black it dawned on me how in the African American community, and I'm not going to say just our community, but just in households in general, okay? Because there's different ethnicities that I have heard or come across that have this stance as well. What happens in our house? What
stays in our house?
Yes, ma'am. So
we all know that phrase, right? We all know that phrase.
Yes, we do. And to a certain extent, that is feasible. You see, you don't let the world know about your household business, but I'm speaking about some of the things that are like perils, some of the things are dark secrets and generational curses and just different things that we carry on from generation to generation just because, auntie, grandmother, grandfather, so did it. Now, of course, we want to carry the legacies. We want to carry the good things, but there's some things that we really must release. Okay. Yeah. And so Fences Picketed Black is more so of and there is a subtitle, The Breakaway from a Codependent Mindset. Right. I did not write this on a clinical level because I am not a psychologist, and I love to share that disclaimer.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist.
You sound like me. Listen, I'm not a counselor.
I'm a life coach, but it's a little different because I do talk about some things that really get to the core of codependency based on my experience. You see what I'm saying? And so I wanted to attract the reader, with Fences Picketed Black, just to rid of some of the stigmas, so to speak, that we have when you see someone and they either, they're on their path or walking in their purpose and things of that nature, but there's still some underlying things that if we don't pluck those roots, we'll start to see the same cycles in our life, that do not serve us well. You see what I'm saying? Because one thing I always stand by, listen, we don't fake it to make it. Let's not even use that term, because if we fake it to make anything, we're not showing up as our most genuine self. You see what I'm saying? Right. Yes, we're going to go through some struggles. Yes, some things may be heavy or stressful, but we can press through, we can work through, but we're not going to fake through.
That's real. That's good right there. That's really good.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So, but yeah, I wanted to put together just a piece of work of encouragement and talk about, again, some of the things that I had to overcome, by the grace of God and him showing me and hand directed or placing people in my life to help me to discover and acknowledge some of the rooted pains that were still within my being. Right. And this is over the course of 10 years. And so in 2020, I said, you know what? I'm healed where I can write and talk about this and help other people. You see what I'm saying? And so,
yes. And you and I had this conversation some time ago. That's also because when I was writing my book, A Bright Days Ahead, I said, I can't read your book because we got too many things that's mirroring each other. I can't read your book let me read your book after I release it.
It was so funny.
I told you that? I was like, no, because let me read your journal after I finish with mine because I have too much in common and I don't want us to blend nothing, no thoughts. But absolutely, it was just like, wow. I mean, and you're right. What we've been taught and what we've learned coming up, a lot of us, is what happens in your house stays in your house, right? And even in my experience, I grew up in a domestic violence home. You know that already. So, those are kind of things that you have to sort of overcome because they carry with you when you leave out your house. They go with you. And having the guidance, you've been blessed to have some true guidance with your dad and with your grandma and all the words of encouragement that they've given and things like that. But for those people that did not have that, this particular book right here is very good.
Oh yeah.
To give them that moment. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and I hadn't thought about it in that way. You know what I mean? So it's a shift. It is definitely a shift of the mind process, what I love to call a perception being. And so you got that perception of what you think you went through and what actually happened, and then what you need to utilize it for something else and to help you get that as a stepping stone to the next thing, right? That's all about the perception. And it's like, at the moment that you were in it, it was horrifying. The moment that you were in it hurt like, I don't know what. I ain't gonna say the other word I won't think of. But it hurt like, oh my God. I mean, it felt like Mike Tyson himself hit you with a hard hit. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
You had a Van Damme kick to the gut, you know, all those things, right?
Yes.
Because I've experienced all of them.
What? Gunshot wounds, Chuck Norris chops. Listen, we can talk about it, okay?
Man, I've had some Jet Li moments, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
where a particular, huh?
No, I said yes, ma'am. Look,
I mean, where a particular, you know, situation or friendship that went bad, or, you know, a job that treated you wrong, or, you know, whatever it was, I've had those moments too. And so you have to be able to have those aha moments, those great words of encouragement, to have a perception shift in your life. Because otherwise, I promise you, with so much that's going on around us, and which is why I'm one of those people where I barely watch television. I'm that's just me. I can barely watch TV. From someone that asked me the other day, said, "Have you seen the news?" No. You know, I haven't seen the news. If I want to know what's going on in the weather, I got weather.com on my phone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I read the news, you know. Yes,
yeah, I try to go the opposite direction when it comes to being on the news and talking about the news a whole lot. And if I have to do a showcase or a live, I get on there and teach what I have to teach, and that's probably about all you're gonna see. You know what I mean? So, but other than that, watching it on a day-to-day basis, I can't put it into my heart savvy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know,
and that's a real, what you just said about putting it into our hearts, because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. A lot of times we think our mind and our heart is, and that was scripture, I just paraphrase, but whenever I had to like, wait a minute, let me make sure I say that in case somebody doesn't know that. But yeah, so a lot of times we separate or think that our hearts and our mind are separate. And it's really connected, very connected. So once something is down in our heart, I know someone gave an example, and they were saying, hey, if you say, or this is killing me, or this is that, you know, listen, we speak death and life with our tongue. And so when you say a thing, and if it goes down into your heart posture, you know, it may manifest as such. And so I'm always big about words, and I don't mind sharing this. I had a godmother before that I used to say, my pet peeve is this. My pet peeve is that. This is back in college, right? And, she would say, slow down, sweetheart, you know, because we were long distance. And so we were always, you know, she groomed me during my college years over the phone. Okay. But then I started flying to see her. But long story short, she said, slow down, honey. You know, I understand you're wanting to share something with me. She said, but what's a pet peeve? And I was like, I'm trying to tell you something. She said, slow down. What is a pet? A pet is something that you groom. You buy, some people, their pets have clothes. You know, you buy food for it, you walk it, right? And I'm like, well, I don't have a pet. Okay, well, we're getting somewhere. But you use the word pet peeve. She said, why are you calling the very thing that plagues you your pet? And I said, you know, in my early 20s when that happened. And I said, you know what? I said, so I may not like something, I may not be favorable or something, but listen, it is not my pet. The very things that I used to say that, oh, my pet peeve, when I stopped speaking that all together, okay, it was uprooted from my heart, one. And two, it's not in my mind, uprooted from my heart, and it stopped happening altogether.
Wow, so that's powerful.
Much power in how and what we say.
Yes,
and our words should always be intentional and purposeful. You know, in the journal, I talk about, then I call the book a journal, but I talk about the acknowledgement aspects, right? We have to acknowledge a thing in order for it to come to the forefront, because, hey, our creator, God, he is a gentleman, okay? He's not going to overstep. You know, sometimes he does intervene and supersede, and, you know, but for the most part, we are given free will. And so if all of our days were ordained before any of them came to be, you know, we have to get into the routine of allowing him in our life. But a lot of times, and I know I can attest for myself, especially, you know, as I was growing in a closer relationship with him, that didn't always happen. You see what I'm saying? But when I came to that enlightenment, it was easier for me to press through things, to acknowledge it, so that the root can be plucked. And so that's another segment of
Yes,
book.
yes.
It talks about the root plucking. Okay.
The plucking of the roots, baby.
Yes. You have to acknowledge it first, right?
Yes,
So that if you don't think you have a problem, then there's no problem, right?
Right. And it's never going to go anywhere. And it's never going to go anywhere. And that's just the thing is like,
yeah.
Okay, I the problem is me. I got to get this right.
Right. And a lot of times we outsource. And so this book touches on that too. We outsource the issues or the nuances of our life versus going within to see how, even though in situations that are beyond our control, right? We can't control that, but what can I do from there forward? You see what I'm saying? Like having bitterness, the saying, it's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die.
Yeah.
And so when you forgive or when you heal, it's not for the opposing party or for someone else. That's for you. It's for your relationship to be, good with God. It's for you to be able to hone and manifest in the desires and the dreams that you have, right? Because I always use the phrase, listen, if you clogged up with a whole bunch of stuff in your heart, how can you receive? You see what I'm saying? If we are clogged up, if our being is full of just putting things under a rug, moving on to the next thing, I know I had that mentality, like forget you and your two shoes, that was my college, verbiage, on to the next thing. And I didn't realize, even though I was being the bigger person at times and moving on, right? At times I didn't take the time to pause to ensure that I'm grieving properly and healing.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And that's so important. It's so important for our ultimate growth.
And you know what? You can stay right there because see now you're stepping on my toes because you can stay right there about actually taking a minute to pause. And I just had that conversation a few days ago, and I don't know if you saw that post that I did on social media where I said I'm learning through this process to be more patient with myself.
Oh yeah.
To be more patient with myself, to allow myself time to pause, to allow myself time to just breathe, to allow myself time to just, give myself 5 minutes. You have to, start. And that is another way of, I like to call the digestive system, because you're digesting what is coming in, but you gotta be able to flush it out, because if you can't flush it out, everything else is just going to pile up. And then at some point it'll make you sick. It'll make you toxic. It will actually kill everything else inside of you that is supposed to be working properly. And so, you have to be able to digest what's going on in every particular situation of your life. And that's why I was like, you got to have that pause moment to be able to allow the digestion system to do what it needs to do to digest everything that already come your way.
Absolutely.
To actually be able to get it into your system, do what it needs to do, and the things that you don't need to flush out the waste.
Right. No, I mean, that's
just the real. That's you know what I mean? That's the real deal. It's like get rid of stuff that just doesn't go with you. That doesn't mend with your spirit, does not mend with who you are, does not mend with your heart, man. It doesn't mend with your mindset. It doesn't mend with any of those things. And it may have come your way and you had to receive it at that moment, but flush it on out, baby, and keep on going. Yes. That's what I've had to use in as far as, metaphorically understanding what goes on around me on a day-to-day basis, especially since you're working with, and me, I'm working in the area of lending. I work in lending. I'm working with people with, getting them finance for their commercial real estate and their Airbnbs and all this other stuff, right? And then I have an insurance company. So of course, sometimes I get calls that are not so great. A client may have passed and I have to help with the death benefit and make sure it get paid out, the death claims. Those are the hard calls, you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, so you may have a good day with getting someone excited about them, building their first business. And then the next day you may have someone call and say, my mom passed.
Right.
It's like having a up down, roller coaster ride type deal, and you're consuming it all.
Yeah, that's the importance of the balance. Like you said, the pausing, the balance. I always say the core work, because we have to do that internal core work. Like people literally, sometimes we, especially on the rise of, in our greatness, right, and everything that we're entrusted and allowed to do by the grace of God. But listen. we literally have to understand with reciprocity of life that long suffering is a fruit as well. So we talk about love, joy, peace, and I just paraphrase, but long suffering. And so just to echo to your point, it's literally necessary to make sure, because we are dealing, and I know in our professions, we deal with people a lot on a daily basis. You get different personalities, different energies, all of that stuff. And so if you are having that pour in so much, it's like, hey, we got to empty out. We got to make sure that we're processing even, and not even just the load or the energy of others, right? But making sure that we're showing up as our best genuine self as well, as we are working in our fields. You see what I'm saying? Because it's nothing like, if you think about it, how our posture is when we have a clear heart and mind versus when we are like going through something. You see what I'm saying? And so not to say, oh, well, they're going through something, I'm just over it, whatever the case may be. No, that due process, as you just stated, of pausing, of making sure that you're grieving, I like to say, because a lot of people look at grief and just associate that with death. And grieving is not just, of course, it's, included with when people pass that we love, but, of old relationships, partnerships. Things that, we had to cut loose and let go of, that process of releasing that you were speaking of. We have to make sure that we're grieving those properly. Now, sometimes grief.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because you're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah. It can take a while. Some people can be good within 3 hours genuinely, but then sometimes you may need to take that, time to, whenever you think about it. Or I know for me at times, and I know this may sound strange, but I have to schedule time to grieve. I'm serious. And I encourage people to do that at times, especially with the loss of a loved one. One of my friends, her mother and father passed away, rest their souls. Right. And even just, I've had somebody really influential in my life pass too, as my grandfather. And so we get into these modes where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to stay busy. I'm just going to keep going. There's nothing wrong with keep going. Right. But if we're not taking the appropriate, necessary, warranted time to heal through that process, then you can get to a place to where you're going to explode. You see what I'm saying? On the inside. And so that's where is that fake it to make it. That's where we're showing up, but we're hurting so much inside because we're not taking time to grieve through those processes, right? And so it's necessary. And like I said, we can apply that to anything that we had to cut off or cut loose or lost. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Taking the time to schedule. I said, if I haven't cried today, I'm scheduling 30 minutes or an hour, whatever my schedule permits, so that I can sit and reflect and process through. And a lot of times, I believe it was Dr. Anita Adams, is that her last name? If I'm misquoting, I'm so sorry. But she said one day, I don't want to know the why. I just want the healing. You see what I'm saying? Like, God, I don't want to try to figure out the why. And
Yes.
And so a lot of times, when we get to a healthy place, then we can look back and reflect on things. Okay, here's what I need to do better next time, for the aspect, right? But not in a place that's going to keep us stunted, and not, well, I ain't going to ever do X, Y, Z. We're doing this pain, but it's like, we got to let that go. But people really have to understand, like, to be free, a quote that I have is, to be free in the mind is true liberation. You see what I'm saying? We can say things and mask things, but if we are really free within our heart and our mind, because it's connected, that's real liberation. I got to the place where it's like, I don't want to just be free. I want to be liberated. You see what I'm saying?
Like, I may have to change that one. Let me see. I'm going to grab that one from you. That's liberate me.
I want to be liberated. I want the whole thing. And I want to read this. It's a short insert at the back of the book.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it gives a fullness of what I want people to grasp, in life in general. Not even those that touch this book, but I really use this just throughout life with encouraging and mentoring or whatever the case may be. But really briefly, it says, we often spend too much time and energy branding our identity, especially on things of the past that we feel may have plagued our existence. Although much of what we encounter in the past shaped the present, the good and the bad, okay? The stunting strongholds and unhealthy codependent habits should not have influential power over our present thinking. In order to unlock and manifest what we have designed to thrive in this life, we have to first acknowledge the erroneous way of thinking and trust the process in discarding what doesn't serve us well to overcome it. We next have to believe in who our Creator says we are. We walk in the freedom of healing, and it's time to break away from mental strongholds into our destiny. And so the book is written for liberation, breaking of generational curses, healing, and peace of mind. And I'm telling you what, like when I say from the core of me, you know, I really wanted to just share some of the things that really had me in a place as far as behaviorisms, different ways of how I was thinking, what I was doing. Oh no, he ain't going XYZ, but it really stems from, you know, something that I had not taken the time to process to overcome.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so we have to do that. It's a due process because it is directly correlated and related to our purpose.
And that's what you said. And you said it so gracefully. It's like, it's a process.
Yeah,
it is a process. And I think that's the part where a lot of people sort of get it wrong. They're like, oh, I'm good today. Oh yeah, that was cool. Tomorrow I'll be just fine.
Right,
No, ma'am. It shows up in your attitude. It shows up in your smile. It shows up in your greetings. It shows up in your conversation. It even shows up in your smell. I mean, some people don't even know that. Listen.
You said you smell like you have an attitude, okay?
No, seriously. Seriously. I don't know if you've ever run into someone that have such a bad attitude that when they come in your presence, it's a stench.
Yes.
It's a stench that sort of comes with them. And sometimes, you know, they can cover it with perfume and shower gels and all kinds of whatever, but it comes out in their pores. And I've actually seen that. Yeah. And you know, and when it gets to that point, it's a bad thing. When it gets to that point, it's a really, really bad thing that is now have manifested in their bodies and is manifested in their beings and you know, everything that they, you know, their daily walk. People hate to see you coming because they already know what you're going to bring. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you know, you don't even have to say hello. It's in your approach. Yeah, you know how you walked up in here. You know, the whole room changed when you got here. That kind of thing.
That's true.
And that happens. That truly happens. And so that's why I said it's a process. But you have to have that made up mind. You said it so gracefully, and you said it so right that you have to have that made up mind that you want to change what you've already been through. You want to change the perception of it. You want to change the thought process of it, and you want something better. Because it's not just about the change. It's about getting over the hump. It's like getting on the other side of that mountain.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. No. I overstand. Yes.
I mean, getting on the other side of the mountaintop.
And it's doable. I mean? And it's doable. In the book, I do give like a how did I do it, because everybody's climb is going to be different. You see what I'm saying?
And the terrain gonna be different.
And there are some common denominators, but you know, I do impart within the journal of how I did it, and then different ways that people make, you know, certain steps or things they can implement on their journey as well. Yeah. And then to write some of that out. You see what I'm saying? Because there's so much power in when we write something and we see it, especially if we're the only one seeing it. You know, it does when we write and it helps to encourage others is one thing, but you can write and reflect on something and look at it to say, okay, this helped me to grow, or here's where my issues are, whatever the case may be. It's just another form of acknowledgement to say, I do not, and I will not stay in this place. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I really, you know, I'm just huge on that for others. I know it's one of my callings as well. You know, as an encourager, it's one of my jams, literally, to help people get to where they need to be on their journey. And when I say that on the business side of things, that's tangibly, right? Yeah. But on the heart posture side of things, it's like, listen, the same liberation and the same freedoms that God has given to me, I know that he can give it to you. So at the beginning of each chapter, I did share some original poems that I wrote. So that's in there as well. I kept thinking of like how. Yes. They're original poems.
That's not good. That's not good, because that's why I did not read your book or look at it before I finished doing mine, because I told you that I have poems throughout mine too, throughout my journal. poems that actually impacted me in some form or fashion.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, I shared some actual ones that I wrote, and they're already published because, as I said, I travel and
awesome.
You know, so it was poems I had already written, and I said, you know what? I have a poem that relates to this topic I'm talking about, so let's put it in the book. And so one is really, really short, one's kind of long, about codependency and just really coming from that place of being through the lens of codependency, but then what it looks like coming out of that, you know, the very things that plague us or that are in our heart posture. Like I said, for me, I'll just give an example with relationships, right? Because of something that happened to me when I was a child, I had that wall or persona of, okay, I'm not going to allow a man to take advantage of me. You see what I'm saying? So that's where came that, okay, I'm not dealing with any, just throw the whole thing in the trash. Okay. Throw the whole relationship away. I'm not going to deal with anything. It's either my way or the highway type of thing. And I got away with that for a long time, actually about maybe 6 or 7 years, you know, I got away with that, but I had to realize, hey, like, why do I do that? What is the reason? What is the root of the reason why I do not desire to deal with conflict? Because that's a problem. You see what I'm saying? Because conflict is not always a bad thing. You know, conflict resolution, you know, you learn more about yourself, you learn more about the other person, so you can agree to disagree or come up with a resolution to move forward. You see what I'm saying? But back in the day, my resolution was deuces. Okay.
Deuces. I totally.
And some things are warranted. It doesn't need to be in our life. So don't get me wrong on that, you know, but in this situation, I literally had to hone in on, why does Kevina make these decisions? You know, what is it about me from the core of me? And so I share some of that in the book. You know, I share some of that as I'm life coaching. I share some of that just in essence every day. Like, hey, you know, we have to get to the root of the matter. Because if you think about it, if we have a pimple, we shouldn't pick our face anyway. We should not pick the pimple. So I'm not encouraging that. But if you do, and you do not get the bulb out, everybody knows that it grows back and it's bigger, or it's horrible. Then we go get our treatments, right? And get our little remover, whatever. But what I'm getting at is that that's the same way with things in our life. You know, if we do not pluck the roots, especially things that are ill or things that do not serve us well, and we don't get to the root of why that's happening, those cycles will continue to happen. And sometimes they come back bigger and uglier than before. Yeah. So,
and see, I told you we'll be on here an hour. I can't be messing with you.
Y'all should see it though. We'll be on the line, you know, talking business, but then we'll get onto another topic. And like,
I know. We will actually be on here forever, because we can talk for a long time. We've done it several times before, but I wanted to. I'm so glad that you came by and told us about everything that's going on in this book. And see, I just started reading, and I was like, I'm not going to read it until mine is already published and already out there.
You did say that,
because I knew we had a lot of stuff in common from conversations, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna put this down right here until I finish with everything I have to do, and then I'll just be surprised. And when you just said the poems, I was like, I got my poems in my book too. This is not gonna work. So fantastic! I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you, and likewise.
Thank you so much for coming in with us today and talking about changing the mindset and what brought you to this place a couple years ago to write this book. So, you know, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. I'm so excited for everything that you're doing. I'm not even going to talk about the Fashion Week. We ain't even going to talk about that.
Oh yeah. That's another part of me.
That's a whole nother recording on the Fashion Week.
Screenwriting, fashion. I mean, that's why I said, when people ask me, well, what is it you do? I speak about the relevant things to whatever I'm doing. Okay.
Yes. But that's gonna be a whole nother recording. We'll talk about that another time. But absolutely, thank you so much for being here with us.
Ma'am. Okay, you're welcome. Yes, I just love, like I say, the heart posture is the most. I want to leave everybody with this. You know, always find a way to balance from the core. You see what I'm saying? Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I like to call it the core four. Where are we at? You know, as mothers, business women, entrepreneurs, students, whatever it is that you do, it's so important that your heart posture is in a good place, right? Because it does impact how you interact with people, how you do business, how you deal with conflict or relationships on all spheres. So it's just so important. So if you didn't hear anything else that we said today through our lives, okay, just remember, find that balance within the core of your heart so that you can manifest and grow into your most genuine self.
There you go. Look at you. I absolutely love it. Thank you so very much for being
here. You are
here.
welcome. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm truly honored and I appreciate you.
You're welcome. So guys, hey, yet another amazing Authors Unite. I mean, so ecstatic. I mean, the information that we learned today and talking to Miss Kevia, I mean, she is just amazing. And she just opened herself up, opened her heart up to tell you all the things that actually helped her make the choices of changing her mindset. So I'm just so excited that she had the chance to be with us here today. So stay tuned. In the future, we're going to bring on some more authors to talk about what is going on behind the scenes and why they felt that particular place in their hearts or all of the experiences that they've had was so important that they had to put it on paper. Okay. I'm so excited. Talk to you guys soon. Wait for the next episode of Authors Unite.
Thank you for tuning in to W2AV Talk with author and wealth strategist Demetris Curry. Connect with Demetris at demetriscurry.com and subscribe to the Demetris Curry YouTube channel today.